Today, we are once again talking about Rick Probstein and his auction house Snipe because some allegations have come to light in the last 12 to 24 hours that indicate shill bidding occurred on his platform, none other than Rick Probstein himself, which is why the website was taken down. Now, to quickly reiterate, these are all allegations. I've got no way of verifying this myself, but I'm putting this video out there so you guys down in the comments, if you are in fact web developers or you know someone that is, can see this, look into it, and confirm whether or not it is fake news or whether or not it is genuine, because this is pretty spicy if it does in fact turn out to be true, and has some pretty damning aspects around it with data breaches and the information that is able to be seen. This is pretty crazy if it is genuine, and I really hope we can sort of get to the bottom of it together. Now, this is from a forum called Elite Forum. This is a Pokemon forum. It's a play on the Elite Four from Pokemon. And what it does allege is that there were back-end vulnerabilities, there were data issues and potential data breaches that expose user information, including things like emails, bid histories, names, addresses, date of births, etc. And it also indicated that shill bidding was going on within the platform with people like Rick Probstein allegedly shill bidding and members of his family. Now, if you're not sure what Snipe is, it does say it over here. It is an auction house that was launched by Rick Probstein in the last few weeks and was taken down after a few days due to technical problems. Now, we spoke about this yesterday, which I raised a lot of questions around whether this was legitimate or was this Rick trying to do it to save face value, or he was trying to save face, sorry, because things weren't selling for what they were. Go ahead and check out my video to hear my thoughts on that. I don't want to repeat myself now. But one of those things that raised a lot of eyebrows. Now, people are alleging on this forum that the back-end information was easily obtained, it wasn't secure, and it indicated that there was shill bidding going on, including from Rick himself, like I said earlier. Now, this is the forum post over here. I'll link it down below, and essentially talks to the fact that the database wasn't secure. They had public access available to their endpoint, their database, and it allowed you to sort of see information like this. Now, what it does say over here is that there was an auction, a 1952 Topps Mickey Mantle, a rookie card, in a PSA 1, and you could see over here information around the bid history, the number of bids, and then who consigned it, as well as who was actually bidding on it, and includes emails, names, and addresses, phone numbers as well, which is a huge issue from a data breach perspective. So if this is legit in of its own, that is a huge problem for Rick to actually try and work through now, because he's actually going to get into some pretty big trouble. Now, the post alleges that this is the information that you could in fact see: full names, phone numbers, emails, birthdays, addresses, and then the same thing essentially for bidders. Now, what they allege is that there are a number of really suspicious users that were tied to Rick Probstein in some capacity, either by the address or the email or even the name. Now, it says over here there are accounts identified as operating, and every account aligns to real phone numbers and addresses of Probstein, the wife of Probstein, a relation of Probstein, and also somebody by the name of Kevin Burge, who is an alleged card scammer and card trimmer. There's an article over here from Sports Card Radio, and people talked about that also in the comments below, which I'll get to in a second. Also, not comments, additional forum posts. And what it does say over here is that all of these accounts also were super bidders. I don't recall exactly what that meant in terms of his platform, but I believe it was something that you would pay for, and it would give you additional features and benefits and functionality on the platform itself. And what it does say over here is that there was an individual registered under Honey Bunny 123. The first name was Honey, second name was Bunny, and it was registered to Probstein's email, and apparently bid 11,000 times, and up to that amount, $246,000. And obviously a number of these, I won't show them all to you now, but there are a number of them which have crazy amounts of bids and then also winning auctions. Now, just quickly, if there are in fact data issues with the website and it wasn't secure, you could have had people over here register accounts under, emails of Rick and other, names to try and create some noise and destabilize this platform. Maybe it's even, a competitive auction house paid somebody to do this. So we need to factor that in when we're talking about this. But if we treat it as true, this is pretty damning, considering, the numbers of bids being placed. And if this was in fact Rick and he registered this account to try and bid, this is a bit insane to me. Now, what the rest of this forum post alleges is the fact that these people bid crazy amounts of money and actually won some of these auctions and then were subsequently caught, which is why the website was taken down. So you can see over here this one that is Honey Bunny, which is allegedly registered to Rick himself, spent $250,000, spent more than anybody, and also bid more than anybody as well. It has a bit more graphs over here to show the information around some of these users, including the ones that are highly questionable, and the amount of money that they were in fact spending. They've also included a text dump of the information they've presented in this post, which is what you're seeing on screen right now, which I'll just scroll through. It has a lot of information around alleged bid history on every single item, including the bidders and the PII information, the private information about them. So one of those ones that is very, very spicy. Now, there's a few people in the rest of the comments talking about this as well and sort of reiterating that the website, in fact, had data issues and apparently was easily accessible. So I think it gives some credence. There's some people over here that linked this user to Kevin Burge, which is what you're sort of seeing over here and how I became aware of it. Also, the fact that Sports Car Radio tagged me in a post on Twitter as well. But one of those ones that is, pretty interesting. And if this is in fact true, this is insane. Like, you're talking about a huge data breach issue. You're talking about potential fraud that would get people in a lot of trouble. Now, obviously, we need to take it with a grain of salt. I can't verify this, so it's all allegations. I think we treat it as fake news, to be perfectly honest with you. But I'm really hoping some of you guys in the comments below can actually start investigating this if you are in fact developers and confirm, is this legit? You've got other people in the comments basically saying they could also see the bid history and they can still in fact see it now by going back to the website. Now, I try to reperform this myself, but I'm not a developer, so I couldn't figure it out. But there's a few of them essentially saying the same thing. It's just wild that this, could have happened. Now, if you were to ask me what my personal opinion is, I do not think this is genuine. And when I say genuine, if this information is real, let's assume that it is for the time being. I don't think Rick and his team would have done this. He's had a lot of accusations around shill bidding in the past. What I think is probably more than likely has happened is that his website was built like dog shit, which I've, talked about when I spoke about it a few weeks ago because it wouldn't let me register an account or anything like that. I think people clued on to the fact that it was designed really poorly and they went ahead and made a bunch of fake accounts. They tried to make it look like Rick was, shill bidding, and they used that to go ahead and sort of defame him and create issues and sort of mess with his business. And this was either trolls out there on the internet that went ahead and did this, or it was, competitors of Rick trying to destabilize his business. Because in my mind, why would you go ahead and create Honey Bunny 123? Like, your old eBay platform was called Rick Probstein 123 or Probstein 123. This just seems very on the nose and somebody was looking to try and get caught, right? Somebody looking to try and mess with Rick. And again, if you're going to go to all this trouble to sort of shill bid on your own platform, would you go ahead and create something with your own email? Would you create something with your own address and phone number? That seems really stupid in my opinion, because if you're the owner of this business and you've got access to the back end, you can go ahead and put in non-mandatory information. So what do I mean by that? Obviously, when you're going ahead and creating an account, you have to put legitimate addresses in and things like that, which is why you might say he went ahead and had to use his real email and real name and real address. But given that you're the owner of the business, you can bypass that requirement. And I just don't know why you would go ahead and, use your own information, even if you could do that. So I think the more than likely thing is that this is somebody just trying to screw over Rick and trying to sort of ruin his business, which is why they've made it so on the nose. So it's one of those ones, like I said, I need your help sort of investigating further. I need people to review this auction text that's linked within the post itself to sort of see if there's any other, damning information in there. But one of those things, like I said, that if this is legit, this is a huge problem. The data breach here, the access of the private information and that being, accessible by random people on the internet is a huge problem. You're going to have lawsuits off the back of this if it is in fact genuine. So yeah, like, do you think Rick shilled? I'll let you guys be the judge. I think this is fake news for the reasons I just mentioned. But one of those ones that we need to pay close attention to because, like I said yesterday, the way this website was designed was incredibly poor. The fact that they could go ahead and launch it and have technical problems is incredibly poor. It indicates they didn't do enough stress testing. It indicates they haven't treated this as seriously as they should have, which is a huge problem and something that goes on within this hobby time and time again. So, at best, you've got a business, not willing to invest the money and doing shit half-assed, or at worst, you've got legitimate shill bidding and scamming going on and somebody's going to jail. So anyway, you guys can make up your own mind. I think it is fake news. I'll say that again. This is all allegations. This is not provable. I cannot verify it myself, but I'm hoping that some of you can look into it and sort of confirm it down below. So if you have information, reach out to me. If you know how to sort of look into this, reach out to me. I've reached out to Rick and his team and I've got no response. I'm putting this out there because I think we need an answer. On the chance that this is legitimate, I think we sort of need this to become a bit more mainstream to sort of work through it. And also, if it is in fact fake news, I want it done for the same reason. A mainstream person talking about it to try and squash the news and actually get, conversation back going to why his website was so shit in the first place. I'll say again, I think this is more than likely people just trying to fuck with him and ruin his business versus him actually doing, because that wouldn't make sense. That would be so stupid for him to go ahead and do that. It doesn't make sense to me. So You guys make up your own mind, like I said, and I'll see you in the next one. Cheers.